In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to use one-way and two-way data tables to calculate sensitivity analysis for a problem. The first thing we're going to look at, though, is the security market line, and the security market line estimates the required rate of return for equity. So that's what we have here. R sub E is the required rate of return for equity, or the cost of equity. And the security market line says that's equal to the risk-free rate plus the beta for the firm's stock, that's B sub E, multiplied by the equity risk premium, also known as the market risk premium. The equity risk premium is equal to the expected return for the market minus the risk-free rate. And in our calculations, we're going to use one number for the equity risk premium. So we won't be taking the expected return for the market minus the risk-free rate. We're just going to use a singular number for that argument. The capital asset pricing model was developed in the 1960s as a way to calculate the required rate of return, and then as a result of that, the value for, in theory, any tradable asset. It's usually used for calculating the required rates of return for stocks or for equity of companies. And so that's how we're going to approach that to the capital asset pricing model and the security market line today. So let's go out here to Excel. And in Excel, we're just going to start off by defining the three variables that go into the security market line. The first is the risk-free rate. And oftentimes for the risk-free rate, we're going to use the yield on the U.S. Treasuries, either 1 year or 10 years, or the constant maturity rates for U.S. Treasuries, which would be similar depending on the approach that we're taking with this security market line. So I'm just going to say here that the risk-free rate is 4% for our example. And this is, like I said before, a number that we would normally look up and would just see what it is currently for example, the 1 year U.S. Treasury. The equity risk premium is our next variable. And this one is also one that's often kind of a given. It doesn't change from investment to investment. There are people out there that calculate this on a monthly basis. So for example, Aswath Damodaran with New York University publishes different equity risk premiums every month. We can also calculate this looking at long-term returns on the market and subtracting from that the average risk-free rate over the time period. The equity risk premium usually ranges in between 3% and 7%. And what that means is that the average investor investing in the average stock requires a return of between 3 and 7% above the risk-free rate to induce them to invest in that average stock. Okay, so the range there is kind of dependent upon the amount of risk aversion that's in the marketplace. So when people are more frightened about the future, when they're worried about the future, they require a higher return or a higher expected return in order to get them to buy stocks or to hold on to stocks. If people are fearful about the future, they'll often want to sell their stocks off because they feel like things aren't going to go well, and so the values of their stocks are going to fall. And so, they're going to take their cash now. And in order to get them to stay in the market or get into the market, the expected return has to be high enough to overcome that additional amount of fear. So the greater the level of risk aversion, the higher the equity risk premium. The more safe people feel, if people feel things are going well or expect things to go well in the future, they're going to require a lower required rate of return or a lower equity risk premium in order to invest in the average investment. So here I'm just going to use an equity risk premium of around 5% in the middle of that 3 to 7% range. Then finally, our third variable is the beta. So the beta for the individual stock. And for the average stock, beta is equal to 1. And that should not be a percentage, it's just 1. Here we go. So the beta of 1, beta is calculated as the coefficient on the market regression, which regresses the excess returns for the market, and we usually use for that the S&P 500, but you could also use another large index fund or index, and we regress that on the returns for that market index. And so when we do that, we get a beta of 1 for the market itself, and then in order to calculate the betas for other firms, we would regress the returns or the excess returns for those firm stock on the excess return for the market, or on the market itself. So that's how we calculate it, kind of in a nutshell. Here we're going to look at using a data table to construct the security market line in our first example. So I'm going to put in here beta, and in the next column I'm going to put in the cost of equity, because that's what we're trying to figure out. And I'm going to add a row in here. So we'll start up here calculating the cost of equity. And this is also the required rate of return for equity. And our equation looks like this. We say that it's equal to the risk-free rate plus the beta multiplied by the equity risk premium. And this is usually in the form of a return. And just to remind you, I'm going out to the document here. The security market line says that the cost of equity, R sub E, is equal to the risk-free rate plus the beta for the firm multiplied by the equity risk premium. And that's what I just did in Excel. So you can see that here. That's my equation that's in cell D5. Now, to create my data table, I'm going to set the value in D8 equal to the formula in D5. So we don't want to put 9% here. We want to actually set this equal to the formula that's up here. So whenever we change the beta, it's going to change the value that's in this cost of equity. So I'm going to put the beta values here in column C. I'm going to start with 0.00, 0.10, 0.20, and I'm going to go up to 3 here for my betas. We can, in theory, have betas that are less than 0. However, they're kind of rare, and we usually don't see them much less than 0. So I'm just going to start with 0 there. And the 0 beta would just mean that the equity or the stock that we're looking at doesn't have any correlation with the market at all. That's kind of rare to see. Most firms will have some level of correlation. They'll move with the market to a certain extent. If you take a stock like Walmart, the beta is going to be low for a company like Walmart because it doesn't fluctuate with market risks very much, but it's still about a 0.5. And so, you know, whenever the market does really well, Walmart does okay. When the market does really poorly, well, Walmart might go down a little bit. But it's not as volatile as the average stock. So I've set up my column of betas here and my cost of equity in cell D8 here. And now I'm going to highlight both columns C and D from cells row 8 through 39. Now I'm going to go out here to data and then go to what if analysis and then to data table. And there's two different inputs here. There's a row input cell and a column input cell. Because this is a one-way data table and because we're using columns, I'm not going to put anything in the row input cell, but I want my column input cell to be the variable in my calculation here, up here, that is changing in my column here. So because the beta is the variable changing, I want to select D4, which is the value for the beta. And so now what Excel is going to do is it's going to recalculate the cost of equity for each value of beta that I have here. And so it looks like this. I'll make it look a little nicer now. I'm going to highlight these. We're going to change these to percentages. I go out 2 decimal places there. So now you can see that for if the beta for the stock is 0, then the required rate of return for that stock is just the risk-free rate. And if the beta for the stock is 2, then the cost of equity, or the required rate of return for equity, would be 2 times the equity risk premium of 5, so that'd be 10%, plus the risk-free rate of 4. The last thing I'm going to do in this example is I'm going to hide this row here. I'm going to hide row 8. And then I'm going to highlight my betas and my cost of equity, just like this. And I'm going to insert a chart. So I'm going to go here to scatter point and select the scatter with straight lines. And this is actually our security market line. And so what this says is that our cost of equity is in our y-axis here, our vertical axis. And for any beta, which is the values along here on the x-axis, we can find the required rate of return, or the cost of equity for the firm, given that beta. So, for example, at 2.5, I can go up here and I can see my cost of equity is going to be 16.5%. And at 3, it's going to be 19%. Okay? So this is the security market line. And again, what I want you to know here, other than how to use a data table, is that according to the capital asset pricing model, we can calculate the required rate of return for any investment if we know its beta, and if we have the inputs for the risk-free rate and for the equity risk premium, or the market risk premium. Okay. So now let's move on to a second example where we use a two-way data table to estimate the cost of equity with changes in the beta and with changes in the risk-free rate. Okay. And we could choose the equity risk premium too, but I just wanted to use the risk-free rate here as an example, just to show you what happens to the security market line when we do have a change in the risk-free rate. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to set this off to the side. Now I'm going to create a two-way table, and that two-way table is going to have the betas in the column and the risk-free rate in the row. Okay. So in the first row here, I'm going to put in the risk-free rate, and we'll say that it can go down to 0. And then we're going to increase it by increments of 0.5%. So 0.500%, 0.50%, 1%, 1.5%, and then so on. And not too long ago, it was getting down. The one-year U.S. Treasury yield was getting down pretty low, and I'll take this up to about 7%. So this is our risk-free rate. And then I'm going to put the betas in just like I did before. We're going to start with 0. And then we're going to take this up to 3. Go. So now with this table, I'm going to set the value in H7 equal to my cost of equity over here. Okay. And now I'm going to highlight the entire table here, starting with that cost of equity value, and then going down to the 3 for the beta. So over here, so it's down to row 39, and then over to column W. There we go. And then I'm going to go to insert. Oh, excuse me, not insert. I'm going to go to data, what if analysis, data table. So now my row input cell is going to be my risk-free rate, because that's what I put in the first row here. And my column input cell, just like before, is going to be that beta. So now we get estimates for different levels of the risk-free rate and different levels of beta. And I'm just trying to make that look a little bit nicer here. And so what we can see here is that if my risk-free rate, for example, were 3% and my beta were 2, then my required rate of return would be 13%. And this gives us the value then for any combination within, you know, our ranges that we have here. Gives us the value of the cost of equity for any combination of the beta and the risk-free rate. So if the risk-free rate is 0 and the beta is 0, then the required rate of return is also 0%. If we go out here all the way, 7% for the risk-free rate, 3 for the beta, we get a required rate of return on the stock of 22%. And so that is finishes the example that we have here for the cost of equity using the security market line and the capital asset pricing model, and a demonstration on how to use one-way and two-way data tables for sensitivity analysis on how the cost of equity changes with a change in two of the variables. Please let me know if you have any questions.